I took my HOA board to court over their attempted property rights grab and won big, not just for myself, but for all 238 homeowners in our community. I've seen countless posts online about HOAs trying to seize control of people's private property, but very few homeowners actually fight back and win. Today, I'm sharing my story of how my lawyer absolutely destroyed our HOA board's illegal land grab attempt, resulting in a complete board overthrow and a six-figure settlement. Quick disclaimer. This isn't legal advice, just my personal experience fighting back against HOA overreach. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. What makes this story different is that our HOA board didn't just try to control what we could do with our property. They actually tried to claim ownership rights over parts of our private lands through a series of manipulative, legal maneuvers. They thought they could get away with it because most homeowners don't understand property law or have the resources to fight back. Well, they picked the wrong homeowner to mess with. See, I've lived in Cypress Creek Estates, a beautiful planned community in state, for nearly a decade. Our homes are worth anywhere from $500,000 to over $1 million, with generous lots and carefully designed outdoor spaces. Everything was great until our board, led by a former real estate developer named Richard Maxwell, but everyone calls him the commissioner behind his back, decided they needed expanded control for community enhancement. What started as seemingly innocent landscape easement updates turned into a shocking attempt to claim actual ownership rights over significant portions of our private property. They tried to sneak these changes through using deceptive legal language buried in a 147-page community improvement proposal. But here's the thing. I used to work in real estate law before switching careers. While I'm not a practicing attorney, I knew enough to spot what they were trying to pull. The board's scheme would have given them permanent control over not just the usual HOA stuff like exterior paint colors or fence heights. They were trying to claim actual property rights over our front yards, side passages, and even some backyard areas. We're talking about roughly 30% of each homeowner's private property, which would have slashed our property values and given the board unprecedented control over our daily lives. When I exposed their scheme at a community meeting, the commissioner and his board allies tried to silence me by cutting off my microphone and calling an emergency recess. That's when I knew this wasn't just about property maintenance or community standards. This was a calculated power grab by people who thought they could exploit their positions to effectively seize private property rights from hundreds of homeowners. This isn't just another story about HOA paint colors or lawn maintenance violations. This is about how a group of power-hungry board members tried to legally steal property rights from an entire community, and how one homeowner, with the help of a brilliant property rights attorney, took them down and secured a victory that protected hundreds of families' property rights and real estate values. What follows is the full story of how we uncovered their scheme, built an airtight legal case, and ultimately forced a complete leadership change in our HOA. You'll learn exactly how we proved their actions were illegal, how we gathered support from other homeowners, and how my lawyer's masterful strategy got the board to not only back down, but also pay significant damages to the community. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how we won this battle, what legal strategies worked best, and what you need to know if your HOA ever tries to overstep their authority and claim rights to your private property. This isn't just about my victory. It's about protecting homeowners' rights everywhere and showing that HOAs aren't above the law. Stay tuned, because this story includes secret meetings, leaked documents, attempted intimidation, and ultimately, a courtroom showdown that changed everything. Let me take you back to where it all started, just about 18 months ago, when the commissioner and his board first launched their scheme to grab control of our property rights. Life at Cypress Creek Estates used to be exactly what you'd expect from a premium planned community. Our tree-lined streets were meticulously maintained, property values consistently rose 5 to 8% annually, and the HOA actually did its job, maintaining common areas and ensuring reasonable community standards without overstepping. I purchased my home here in 2014, attracted by the spacious 2-3-acre lots and the community's reputation for balancing property rights with common-sense regulations. The original HOA guidelines were straightforward: basic exterior maintenance, requirements, reasonable restrictions on visible storage, and simple architectural review processes for major exterior changes. Nothing unusual or intrusive. Our previous board, led by retired Judge Sandra Martinez, understood their role perfectly. They focused on genuine community issues, maintaining our walking trails, managing the community center, and coordinating seasonal events that brought neighbors together. The annual HOA fees were reasonable, $1,800 per year, and every penny was accounted for in detailed quarterly reports. The community thrived under this balanced approach. We had young families moving in, retirees aging in place comfortably, and property values steadily climbing. The Architectural Review Committee, staffed by volunteer homeowners with relevant experience, typically processed requests within a week. They approved about 85% of submissions, only rejecting plans that clearly violated building codes or HOA guidelines. I particularly appreciated how the old board handled property boundaries and rights. They maintained detailed maps of each lot, respected existing easements, and never tried to extend their authority beyond what was explicitly granted in our original CC&Rs. When issues arose about property lines or usage rights, they encouraged neighbors to work things out amicably, stepping in only when absolutely necessary. My own experience with home improvements during this period was consistently positive. When I decided to install a professional greenhouse in my backyard in 2016, the process was smooth and reasonable. The Architectural Committee provided clear guidelines, reviewed my plans promptly, and even offered helpful suggestions about placement to minimize impact on neighbors' sightlines. Our community events showcase the positive aspects of HOA living. The annual summer festival brought everyone together in our community park, while the holiday decoration contest encouraged friendly competition without strict regulations. The board even organized volunteer committees for community improvement projects, always respecting that participation was optional. The financial management was equally impressive. Our reserve fund grew steadily, with transparent accounting and conservative investment strategies. Major projects were planned years in advance, with homeowner input actively sought and considered. When we needed to upgrade our community center, in 2017, the board organized multiple town halls to discuss options and costs before proceeding. Even enforcement of rules was handled professionally. Violations were addressed with courtesy notices first, focusing on education rather than punishment. The appeal process was straightforward and fair, with a separate committee of homeowners hearing appeals to ensure impartiality. Fines were rare and reasonable, typically only imposed for repeated, significant violations after multiple warnings. The sense of community was strong. Neighbors knew each other, looked out for one another's properties, and freely shared information about reliable contractors and service providers. The HOA maintained an excellent website where residents could easily access documents, submit requests, and stay informed about community news. Looking back, what stands out most was the respect for private property rights. The board understood that their role was to enhance the community, not control it. They focused on maintaining common areas and enforcing reasonable standards while respecting each homeowner's right to enjoy their property within those broad guidelines. This balanced approach attracted quality residents to our community. We had doctors, lawyers, business owners, and other professionals who appreciated both the aesthetic standards and the respect for property rights. The diversity of our community, in ages, backgrounds, and interests, made it a vibrant place to live. That all started to change when Richard Maxwell, fresh from developing several upscale communities in neighboring counties, moved into one of our premium lots in late 2022. At first, his interest in board activities seemed like genuine, civic involvement. He attended meetings regularly, asked detailed questions about community management, and volunteered for committees. No one suspected that his apparent civic-mindedness was the beginning of a calculated plan to fundamentally alter our community's property rights structure. We were about to learn just how quickly a well-run HOA could be transformed into a mechanism for property rights abuse. The first signs of change came during the February 2023 board meeting. Richard Maxwell, having just been appointed to fill a vacant board position, presented what he called the Cypress Creek Modernization Initiative. His presentation was slick, professional, and seemingly well-intentioned, exactly what you'd expect from a successful real estate developer. "Our community has tremendous untapped potential," he announced, showing glossy renderings of elaborate community features. "But to achieve this vision, we need to modernize our governing documents and management approach." He proposed hiring Premier Community Management, a property management company he'd worked with in his previous developments, to professionalize our operations. The changes started subtle, but accelerated quickly. Premier Community Management took over in March, immediately implementing new digital systems for violation reporting and architectural reviews. The user-friendly community website was replaced with a corporate portal that made accessing documents surprisingly difficult. Suddenly, getting copies of meeting minutes or financial reports required formal requests and waiting periods. Maxwell, now chairing the Architectural Review Committee, pushed through new, standardized procedures that expanded the scope of HOA oversight. Simple improvements that previously required minimal review now needed extensive documentation. The approval process stretched from 1 week to often more than a month, with requests frequently returned for additional information. But the real red flag appeared in May, when Premier distributed a community enhancement survey. Buried in the 40-page document were questions about streamlining property maintenance and optimizing common area integration. The survey seemed designed to manufacture consent for increased HOA control over private property. I started noticing peculiar patterns in the architectural review responses. Requests for improvements near property boundaries were consistently delayed or denied, often citing new setback requirements that weren't in our original CC&Rs. When homeowners questioned these decisions, they were directed to obscure sections of the new management company's operational guidelines. During this period, Maxwell was building his power base on the board. He brought in 2 associates from his development days, Thomas Green and Patricia Winters, to fill other vacant positions. The board meetings became increasingly choreographed, with public comment periods shortened and challenging questions deferred to offline discussions that never materialized. The management company began conducting frequent property inspections, photographing not just visible violations but documenting detailed characteristics of each property. When questioned about this unusual level of surveillance, they cited updated documentation requirements for insurance purposes. By summer, Maxwell's team had installed new committees with carefully selected members. The Landscape Committee, Environmental Impact Committee, and Property Standards Committee all appeared legitimate on paper, but their real purpose became clear later. They were creating layers of bureaucracy to justify the upcoming property rights grab. The most concerning development was the quiet hiring of Stevenson and Associates, a law firm known for aggressive HOA litigation. Their retention wasn't announced at any meeting. I only discovered it while reviewing the buried details of the monthly financial statements. The firm's specialty: rewriting HOA governing documents to maximize board authority. In July, Maxwell introduced what he called Phase 1 of the Community Enhancement Plan. It included reasonable-sounding improvements like upgraded street lighting and enhanced security cameras. But hidden in the implementation details were concerning phrases about expanded easements and community integration zones. The board began hosting informational sessions about property maintenance standards, but these meetings felt more like conditioning than education. They repeatedly emphasized phrases like community standards enforcement and unified property management, while dismissing questions about individual property rights as outdated concerns. Premier started issuing new maintenance advisories, not violations, they insisted, just friendly recommendations. These advisories often focused on areas near property boundaries or front yards, creating a paper trail of community concerns about these spaces. Looking back, it was clearly groundwork for their future property rights claims. Throughout this period, Maxwell maintained a friendly, professional demeanor. He'd stop to chat with homeowners, listening to concerns with seeming sincerity, but decisions kept flowing that gradually eroded homeowner autonomy. Each change was small enough to seem reasonable in isolation, but the pattern was becoming clear to those paying attention. By late August, I started documenting everything, every notice, every new rule, every changed procedure. I hadn't practiced law in years, but my legal background was screaming that these weren't random changes. This was a calculated strategy to fundamentally alter our property rights. What I didn't know yet was just how ambitious their plan really was. September brought the true revelation of Maxwell's master plan, though not in the way he intended. I was reviewing the newest batch of community enhancement documents when Sarah Chen, our former board secretary, reached out to me privately. She'd resigned from the board in August, citing personal reasons, but the real story was far more disturbing. "You need to see these," she said, sharing copies of email exchanges and draft documents from before her resignation. The materials revealed Maxwell's connections to Landmark Development Group, a company specializing in acquiring and densifying established communities. He wasn't just a successful developer. He was part of a systematic operation targeting communities like ours. The emails exposed conversations between Maxwell, Thomas Green, and Patricia Winters, dating back months before they joined our board. They'd identified Cypress Creek Estates as an ideal acquisition target due to our large lot sizes and relatively modest HOA fees. Their strategy was methodical: join the board, implement strict controls, then leverage those controls to force property concessions. Their ultimate goal? Once they controlled enough private property rights, they planned to optimize community density, corporate speak, for subdividing our lots and building additional units. The community enhancement language was just cover for a massive property. Grab that would let them essentially double the number of homes without technically violating zoning laws. Maxwell's team had already succeeded with this playbook in 3 other communities. Their method was consistent: use HOA authority to gradually assert control over private property, then leverage that control to force homeowners into accepting reduced property rights in exchange for relief from increasingly burdensome restrictions. The modernization of our management systems suddenly made perfect sense. The new digital portal wasn't just inefficient by accident. It was designed to frustrate homeowners while building a paper trail of compliance issues that could later justify expanded HOA control. Patricia Winters emerged as the enforcement arm of their operation. As head of the new Property Standards Committee, she began implementing what they called precision enforcement, targeting specific homeowners with technical violations while ignoring similar issues elsewhere. The pattern wasn't random. They focused on properties strategic to their development plans. Thomas Green, meanwhile, handled the financial aspect. As treasurer, he began restructuring our reserves and implementing new fees, creating financial pressure on homeowners who might oppose their plans. He introduced special assessments for infrastructure improvements that primarily affected targeted properties. Their team also included James Harrison, their plant in Premier Community Management. As our assigned property manager, he ensured that all communications and enforcement actions aligned with their strategy. Every inspection, every violation notice, every delayed approval was part of their coordinated effort to establish control over private property. The sophistication of their operation was chilling. They'd created a complex web of committees and procedures that made challenging their decisions nearly impossible. Each committee had carefully selected members. Some were unwitting participants. Others were brought in from their previous projects. Maxwell's public persona became increasingly authoritarian as their control solidified. During the September board meeting, he introduced new community integration guidelines that would require homeowners to obtain approval for even minor landscape changes within 40 feet of any property line, effectively controlling most of our usable yard space. When homeowners questioned these guidelines, Maxwell revealed his true character. Those who don't appreciate our vision for this community might be happier elsewhere, he announced, his previously friendly demeanor replaced with cold corporate efficiency. These changes are necessary for the community's future. The documents Sarah shared included their phased implementation plan. Phase 1 had been establishing control. Phase 2, now beginning, was asserting direct authority over private property through increasingly restrictive regulations. Phase 3 would be the final push, using accumulated violations and restrictions to force homeowners into accepting their property optimization program. Their legal strategy was particularly insidious. Stevenson and Associates had drafted a series of modifications to our CC&Rs that would gradually transfer effective control of our private property to the HOA. Each change seemed minor in isolation, but together they would give the board unprecedented authority over our land. By late September, Maxwell's team had established complete control over the board and all key committees. They began holding closed executive sessions with increasing frequency, citing confidential legal and personnel matters. The few remaining independent voices on committees were systematically removed or marginalized. What they didn't know was that Sarah hadn't just shared these documents with me. She'd been quietly building a comprehensive record of their activities. For months, between her documentation and my legal background, we were uniquely positioned to understand and challenge their scheme. But we needed to act carefully. They'd already demonstrated their willingness to target anyone who opposed them. October began with a wave of property boundary compliance notices hitting specific homeowners. These weren't traditional violation notices. They were detailed surveys claiming discrepancies between official property boundaries and current usage patterns. My notice arrived first, probably because I'd been asking too many questions at board meetings. The survey claimed that my fence line encroached 3 inches onto community access space on one side, and that my landscaping extended beyond permitted cultivation zones in 2 areas. These terms, community access space and permitted cultivation zones, appeared nowhere in our original CC&Rs. They were inventions of the new management regime, designed to create uncertainty about property rights. Similar notices went to about 20 other homeowners, all with properties strategic to Maxwell's development plans. The Andersons, whose corner lot would be crucial for any future density increase, received a notice claiming their entire side yard fell into a newly designated community integration zone. The Patels, whose deep lot could potentially be split into 3 properties, were cited for unauthorized permanent structures, their children's treehouse that had been there for 5 years. These notices required homeowners to validate their property usage by submitting extensive documentation, surveys, original plot plans, historical photographs, and improvement records. The catch? All these records had to be requested through Premier's new portal, which mysteriously malfunctioned whenever people tried to access historical documents. The timing wasn't coincidental. Winter was approaching, and the new community integration guidelines required all validation documents to be submitted before any snow removal services could be approved. They were manufacturing a crisis that would force homeowners to engage with their process. Sarah's insider documents revealed their strategy: create documentation gaps that could later be used to challenge property rights. Any homeowner who failed to validate their property usage would be deemed to have abandoned their claim to disputed areas. The legal implications were serious. They were trying to establish grounds for adverse possession claims. Their tactics grew more aggressive. As October progressed, the Property Standards Committee, led by Patricia Winters, began conducting detailed boundary surveys using a private company, one that, unsurprisingly, had connections to Landmark Development Group. These surveyors placed markers and flags throughout our properties, often without notice or permission. When homeowners removed these unauthorized markers, they received immediate violations for interfering with official community management activities. The fines started at $100 per incident but quickly escalated. The Johnsons, who'd removed markers placed in their children's play area, faced $500 in fines within a week. The management company's inspection regime intensified. They now photographed our properties daily, claiming this surveillance was necessary for ongoing compliance documentation. These photos focus suspiciously on areas that would be crucial for future development: side yards, potential access points, and spaces that could accommodate additional units. Maxwell introduced new, temporary emergency measures at a sparsely attended morning board meeting. These measures required homeowners to obtain permits for any outdoor gatherings of more than 6 people, citing impact on community spaces. The real purpose became clear when the permit application required acknowledging the board's authority over all community-adjacent spaces, essentially any part of our properties visible from common areas. The financial pressure mounted as well. Thomas Green announced a special assessment for boundary compliance verification, $2,500 per household, due within 60 days. The assessment supposedly covered the cost of their unauthorized surveys and professional documentation services. Failure to pay would result in liens and property usage restrictions. Those who tried to sell their homes faced new obstacles. The management company now required extensive property compliance certifications before issuing HOA documents needed for closing. Several sales fell through when Premier delayed these certifications, claiming unresolved boundary validation issues. Even routine maintenance became a weapon in their arsenal. The new landscaping contractor, another Landmark Development affiliate, began selectively maintaining areas of private property without permission. When homeowners objected, they received notices claiming these areas fell under community maintenance jurisdiction due to historical usage patterns. The previously transparent HOA financial reports became increasingly opaque. Line items were consolidated under vague categories like community integration expenses and property optimization costs. The detailed quarterly reports were replaced with summary statements that obscured the true nature of expenditures. By late October, the community's atmosphere had transformed. Neighbors who'd previously gathered for casual conversations now spoke, in whispers, aware of the constant surveillance. Property markers appeared and disappeared mysteriously. Each day brought new notices, new requirements, new restrictions, all designed to wear down resistance to their ultimate property grab. What Maxwell and his team didn't realize was that their aggressive tactics were actually helping us build our case. Each overreach, each unauthorized action, each abuse of authority was meticulously documented. Sarah continued gathering evidence from inside the system while I began quietly connecting with other targeted homeowners. The infrastructure of resistance was forming, though we had to move carefully to avoid tipping our hand. The breaking point came in early November during what should have been a routine property inspection. I was working from home when I noticed James Harrison from Premier Management and two unfamiliar men in suits walking around my property, measuring and photographing my backyard. When I went out to question them, Harrison introduced them as consultants, conducting a standard community assessment. Something about their behavior seemed off. They were particularly interested in my back garden area, where I'd invested nearly $50,000 in professional landscaping, including a Japanese maple collection and custom irrigation system. The consultants were marking specific points with small flags and taking detailed measurements of the distance between my garden features and the property line. I politely asked them to leave, citing the original CCNRs that required 48-hour notice for any property inspections. Harrison smiled condescendingly and handed me a new document, updated community access protocols that had apparently been approved at the last executive session. According to these protocols, management representatives now had unlimited access rights to evaluate community integration zones. When I refused to accept their authority and asked them to leave again, Harrison made a phone call. Within minutes, Maxwell himself arrived, accompanied by Patricia Winters. Their demeanor was calculated intimidation, all corporate smiles and legal threats. Maxwell explained that my uncooperative attitude would be noted in the community compliance records, but it was what happened next that revealed their true intentions. Maxwell casually mentioned that my garden area had been identified for community pathway integration in their upcoming development plan. They were already treating my private property as if it belonged to them. When I pointed out that they had no legal right to redefine my property boundaries, Maxwell's mask slipped. "Actually," he said, pulling out a tablet displaying some legal documents, "the board has already voted to exercise its right of first refusal on several underutilized property sections throughout the community. Your garden area falls within that designation." He showed me a complex legal document that essentially claimed the HOA had the right to reclaim portions of private property for community benefit based on obscure provisions they'd recently added to the bylaws. The document was dated October 15th, but no homeowners had been notified of this vote or these changes. When I demanded to see the meeting minutes where this was discussed, Maxwell claimed it was handled in a closed executive session due to sensitive legal matters. He then delivered the real threat. Either I could voluntarily participate in their community integration program, or they would begin assessing daily fines for various violations they documented. Those violations, they included unauthorized botanical specimens, my Japanese maples, non-compliant irrigation systems, my custom watering setup, and excessive ornamental density, the garden design that had won a local landscaping award. The fines would be $100 per violation per day, potentially totaling $300 daily until I resolved these issues by surrendering control of my garden area to HOA management. I maintained my composure, but insisted on seeing their legal authorization for these actions. Maxwell's response was telling, "We don't need your permission to enforce community standards. The board's authority is absolute in these matters." He then handed me a formal notice. They were giving me 72 hours to remove personal items from what they now called the designated Community Integration Zone. That evening, I received an email from Premier Management containing a voluntary property integration agreement. The document was essentially a legal surrender of my property rights, wrapped in benign-sounding corporate language about community enhancement and shared space optimization. They were offering to waive the accumulated fines, which didn't legally exist, if I signed within 48 hours. The final straw came the next morning. A landscaping crew showed up at 7 a.m., claiming they had authorization to begin preparation work in my garden area. When I showed them my property deed and insisted they leave, they called Harrison, who threatened to call the police and report me for interfering with authorized community maintenance. I immediately documented everything, took photos, recorded conversations, single-party consent is legal in our state, and saved all emails and notices. I also walked my property line, photographing every survey marker and flag they'd placed. That's when I discovered something crucial. They'd quietly moved several property markers, shifting them a few feet inward from my actual property line. This wasn't just about control anymore. They were actively attempting to steal portions of private property through fraudulent means. I knew then that this had gone beyond HOA overreach into criminal territory. They weren't just abusing their authority, they were engaging in a sophisticated form of real estate fraud. That evening I contacted Sarah Chen, sharing everything I'd documented. She confirmed my suspicions. They'd attempted similar tactics in other parts of the community, but most homeowners had been intimidated into compliance. My garden was just one piece of a larger land grab scheme. They were systematically targeting properties with features that could be converted into community spaces, ultimately planning to use these seized areas to justify increased density development. The retaliation for my resistance was swift and calculated. Within 48 hours of refusing to sign their voluntary property integration agreement, my inbox was flooded with violation notices. Each one was more absurd than the last, but crafted carefully to appear legitimate under their new rules. First came the retroactive landscaping violations. They claimed my entire garden installation from 3 years ago had never received proper authorization, despite having written approval from the previous board. According to their new rules, all prior approvals were subject to review and revocation. They demanded I submit a new application, complete with engineering studies and environmental impact assessments that would cost thousands. Then they escalated to safety violations. My Japanese maples suddenly constituted view obstructions for their newly planned community pathway, a pathway that would cut directly through my private property. The irrigation system I'd installed was now classified as a subsurface hazard. They even cited my garden lighting as a navigation hazard for their proposed community access route. The fines were structured to build maximum pressure. Each violation carried its own daily penalty. Unauthorized landscape features, 200 tons a day. Safety hazards, 300 ton day. View obstruction, 250 day. Non-compliant irrigation, 275 day. Lighting violations, 150 day total daily fines, 1,175s. They backdated these violations to their October 15th board vote, meaning I supposedly already owed over $25,000 in fines. Their message was clear: surrender the property rights voluntarily or face financial ruin. But they didn't stop at just fines. Harrison began scheduling emergency inspections of my property at inconvenient times, always accompanied by their security consultant, a former police officer who made sure to display his concealed weapon. During these visits, when I refused access without proper notice, they started documenting these as compliance violations. The psychological warfare intensified. Every morning at 7 a.m. sharp, their landscaping crew would park their trucks at the edge of my property, engines running, workers standing ready, just waiting for me to leave so they could claim I had abandoned the property during a scheduled maintenance window. I had to rearrange my entire work schedule to maintain constant property surveillance. Maxwell's team also began targeting my professional reputation. Somehow my clients started receiving anonymous emails suggesting I was under investigation for property violations. These carefully worded messages never made direct accusations, but implied that doing business with me might be risky. As a self-employed consultant, this attack on my livelihood was particularly vindictive. The harassment spread to my neighbors. Anyone seen talking to me received their own violation notices within days. The Andersons, who had offered to testify about their own property rights violations, suddenly found their college-age son's car being ticketed for unauthorized overnight parking in their own driveway. The Patel's home-based daycare business received anonymous complaints to state licensing authorities. Patricia Winters orchestrated a sophisticated social pressure campaign. She began hosting community information sessions where they presented their development plans as beneficial to property values. Those who opposed the plans were characterized as anti-community and obstacles to progress. They even created a community enhancement support group on social media, which regularly posted about the problem properties holding back neighborhood improvement. Their legal intimidation reached new levels when Stevenson and Associates sent me a letter filled with veiled threats. They cited obscure property law cases suggesting that homeowners who obstruct community development could be held personally liable for economic damages to the community. The letter hinted at potential lawsuits that could tie me up in court. For years, the pressure tactics extended to basic services. Suddenly, my trash pickup became irregular. Snow removal crews accidentally blocked my driveway. Mail delivery became unreliable. When I raised these issues at a board meeting, Maxwell simply smiled and suggested that full community services were reserved for compliant residents. They even attempted to interfere with my property insurance. The HOA sent a letter to my insurance company claiming my garden constituted an unauthorized modification that might void my coverage. It took weeks of documentation and legal correspondence to prevent my policy from being cancelled. The final straw came when they started interfering with my utility services, claiming a need to verify utility easements for their community integration project. They scheduled water and power interruptions to my property. Each shutdown lasted just long enough to be deeply disruptive, but not long enough to trigger utility company investigations. Through it all, I maintained detailed records. Every interaction was documented, every piece of correspondence saved, every inspection photographed. Sarah continued feeding me internal documents showing how they were testing these tactics before rolling them out community-wide. Their plan was to break down resistance property by property, setting precedents they could use to justify broader land seizures. What they didn't realize was that each escalation only strengthened our legal case. Their actions had moved beyond HOA overreach into multiple violations of state and federal law, property rights violations, harassment, interference with business relationships, abuse of power. The list of actionable offenses grew daily. They, Thought they were building pressure, but they were actually building our case for us. Before pursuing legal action, I decided to exhaust all proper channels for resolution. This wasn't just about following procedure. I wanted to establish a clear record of attempting to resolve the situation reasonably. My background in real estate law taught me that courts look favorably on plaintiffs who try to solve problems through official channels first. I began by submitting a formal appeal of all violations through Premier's online portal. The system was clearly designed to obstruct. Each violation required a separate appeal, with different forms and supporting documentation. I spent an entire weekend methodically filing appeals, carefully citing relevant sections of the original CC&Rs, state property laws, and our community bylaws. For each appeal, I assembled comprehensive documentation, original property surveys and deed records, previous board approvals for all improvements, historical photographs showing consistent property usage, documentation of property marker locations, utility easement records, original architectural approval letters. I also requested formal hearings for each violation, as required by state law. The response was telling. Premier claimed their new, streamlined dispute resolution process superseded traditional hearing requirements. According to their new procedures, all appeals would be reviewed administratively by the same board members who had issued the violations. Undeterred, I sent certified letters to each board member, formally requesting copies of all meeting minutes where property rights changes were discussed, documentation of votes on new rules and procedures, financial records showing allocation of community integration funds 4, proof of proper notice for rule changes 5, records of any property surveys or engineering studies. Their response came through Stevenson and Associates. The letter claimed most requested documents were confidential due to ongoing legal strategy discussions. They offered to provide heavily redacted copies for a document processing fee of $275 per page. This was a clear violation of state HOA laws requiring transparency in records. I then attempted to address the issues at the November board meeting. Following their procedures exactly, I submitted a formal request to speak, complete with their required presentation outline and supporting documentation. The day before the meeting, Harrison emailed to inform me that the agenda was full and my items would be deferred to a future session. Anticipating this, I attended anyway. During the public comment period, I raised my hand to speak. Maxwell attempted to skip over me, but other homeowners in attendance spoke up. Forced to acknowledge me, he limited my time to 2 minutes, contrary to their own published rules, allowing 5 minutes per speaker. I used my time strategically, focusing solely on procedural violations in their actions. Lack of proper notice for rule changes, failure to follow state-mandated hearing procedures, improper restriction of document access, violations of open meeting laws, unauthorized property access. Maxwell's response was pure corporate deflection. These concerns have been reviewed by our legal team and found to be without merit. We're moving forward with our community enhancement initiatives as planned. He then quickly called for a motion to enter executive session, clearing the room. Following the meeting, I submitted formal complaints to the HOA's insurance carrier, the Property Management Licensing Board, the State Real Estate Commission, the County Recorder's Office, the State Attorney General's HOA Oversight Division. Each complaint was meticulously documented with supporting evidence. The HOA's insurance carrier seemed particularly interested, requesting additional documentation about the property rights violations. This was significant. Insurance typically doesn't cover intentional violations of homeowner rights. I also reached out to Premier's corporate headquarters, bypassing Harrison to file formal complaints about unauthorized property access, harassment and intimidation, improper denial of appeals, document access obstruction, selective enforcement. Their response was unexpected. They claimed our local office was operating as an independent franchise, and they had no direct oversight of its operations. This contradicted their own management agreement with our HOA, which claimed they provided unified corporate management services. Throughout this process, I maintained strictly professional communication. Every letter was polite but firm. Every request cited specific laws or regulations. Every complaint focused on documented violations rather than personal grievances. This professionalism would prove crucial later. It demonstrated clear attempts at reasonable resolution before pursuing legal action. The final step in this phase was publishing a detailed report to all homeowners, documenting the timeline of violations, specific procedural breaches, relevant laws being violated, failed attempts at resolution, potential community-wide impacts. I distributed this through certified mail to ensure delivery and tracking. Maxwell's team quickly issued a cease and desist letter, claiming my report constituted interference with community operations and defamation of board members. Their reaction confirmed they were worried about homeowners understanding the full scope of their actions. By mid-December, it was clear that traditional resolution channels were deliberately blocked. Every attempt at proper procedure was met with obstruction, every formal complaint deflected, every appeal denied without proper review. They had created a closed system where they controlled all official channels for resolution. What they didn't expect was that this process created exactly what we needed: comprehensive documentation of their systematic violation of homeowner rights and their refusal to follow proper procedures. Each denied appeal, each blocked complaint, each procedural violation strengthened our position for the legal battle to come. The real breakthrough came during a chance encounter at our local coffee shop. I was reviewing violation notices when Elena Rodriguez, who owned a prime corner lot near the community entrance, noticed the Premier Management letterhead. "You too?" she asked, pulling up a chair and sharing her own stack of violations. Her story revealed a pattern I hadn't fully grasped. The board wasn't just targeting random properties. They were systematically pressuring homeowners whose lots were crucial to their development plans. Elena's violations focused on her extensively landscaped corner lot, which Maxwell's team had designated as a community gateway enhancement zone. This conversation sparked a series of discreet meetings with other targeted homeowners. The Patels hosted the first gathering, carefully disguised as a holiday planning committee meeting. 15 homeowners attended, each bringing their own violation notices and documentation. As we compared notes, a disturbing pattern emerged. Phase 1, Properties, Gateway Enhancement. Elena Rodriguez's corner lot, the Patel's deep lot with development potential. 3 other properties along the main entrance all received violations related to community aesthetic integration. Phase 2, Properties, Interior Development. My property and adjacent lots, the Andersons' expandable lot. 4 properties around the community center, all hit with community access violations. Phase 3, Properties, Future Expansion. 7 properties backing to undeveloped land. 3 lots with potential for subdivision, all targeted for environmental buffer zone compliance. Each group faced different types of violations, but the end goal was the same: forcing homeowners to surrender property rights for Maxwell's development scheme. Sarah's insider documents confirmed our suspicions. They had mapped out a 3-year development plan that required controlling specific properties in each phase. The Patels revealed another crucial piece of information. Their cousin, a real estate attorney in a neighboring city, had dealt with Landmark Development Group before. They had attempted similar schemes in other communities using HOA authority to force property concessions. Some communities had successfully resisted, while others had been effectively taken over. Dr. Kim, a retired civil engineer who owned one of the Phase 3 properties, provided valuable technical insight. He had analyzed their proposed community integration plans and discovered they violated multiple zoning regulations. The only way their development scheme could work was by first gaining control of private property through HOA authority, then requesting zoning variances as a community improvement project. We also discovered their financial strategy. Thomas Green had been systematically increasing fees and fines on targeted properties while keeping other homeowners' costs stable. This divided the community, preventing unified resistance. Those not currently targeted were less likely to oppose the board's actions, not realizing they were next in line. The most shocking revelation came from Maria Santos, who worked at the county records office. She discovered that Maxwell's team had quietly filed preliminary paperwork for property line adjustments on several lots, including mine. They were preparing legal groundwork for their property grab before even securing the rights they claimed to have. Our informal network grew, and carefully, we used secure messaging apps and met in small groups, aware that Maxwell's team was monitoring traditional communication channels. Each new contact brought additional evidence. The Wilsons had recordings of Harrison threatening to lien their property if they didn't accept the community integration program. The Chandlers had emails proving the board selectively enforced rules against targeted properties. The Novaks had documented the systematic removal and replacement of original property markers. We also uncovered connections between board members and development interests. Maxwell's ties to multiple development companies, Patricia Winter's history of flipping HOA-controlled properties, Thomas Green's involvement in similar schemes in other states, Harrison's previous role in forced community renovations. The scope of their operation was larger than anyone had imagined. They weren't just planning to modify our community, they were using it as a test case for a new model of development, using HOA authority to effectively seize private property rights without fair compensation. Through careful networking, we identified 37 homeowners directly targeted in their first 3 phases. Another 45 properties were slated for future community integration. Together, these properties represented over $45 million in real estate they planned to control through manipulated HOA authority. Sarah's continued inside access proved invaluable. She provided copies of their internal project timeline, 2024, secure. Control of Phase 1 properties, TO 25. Begin Phase 2 acquisitions, TO 26. Launch Phase 3, Development 2027, Complete Community Optimization. Their documents revealed their endgame, doubling the number of housing units while maintaining the illusion of a luxury community. Original homeowners would effectively lose control of significant portions of their property, all through seemingly legitimate HOA actions. This discovery phase provided something crucial: strength in numbers. We now had documented evidence of a systematic scheme affecting multiple homeowners. This would prove vital in court, demonstrating a pattern of behavior rather than isolated incidents. More importantly, we had a core group of homeowners ready to fight back, each bringing their own evidence and resources to the battle ahead. Finding the right legal representation was crucial. We needed someone who understood not just HOA law, but the intersection of property rights, development law, and HOA authority. Through the Patel's cousin, we were referred to Alexandra Martinez, a partner at Hamilton and Martinez, who specialized in complex property rights litigation. Our first meeting with Martinez was eye-opening. Instead of the usual lawyer's cautious hedging, she became visibly animated as we presented our evidence. "This is textbook ultra-vires action," she explained, using the legal term for when an organization exceeds its authority. "But it's also something more sophisticated. They're using HOA authority as a proxy for eminent domain powers they don't legally possess." Martinez's analysis revealed multiple layers of legal violations: property rights violations, unauthorized property access, illegal boundary modifications, false claims of authority, interference with property use, procedural violations, improper rule changes, invalid voting procedures, illegal closed meetings, document access obstruction, financial misconduct, unauthorized assessments, selective enforcement, improper fine structures, misuse of HOA funds, state law violations, open meeting law breaches, records access restrictions, improper notice procedures, due process violations. What excited Martinez most was the pattern of organized action. "This isn't just HOA overreach," she explained. "It's a coordinated scheme to deprive homeowners of property rights through abuse of HOA authority. That moves this from civil violations into potential racketeering territory." She brought in David Chen, her firm's RICO, Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, specialist. Chen identified how Maxwell's team's actions potentially constituted a pattern of racketeering activity: mail fraud through deceptive notices, wire fraud via electronic communications, extortion through threat of fines, document fraud in property records. Martinez's team also discovered something crucial about Stevenson and Associates. Their aggressive representation of HOAs had led to 3 state bar complaints in the past year. All involved similar cases where HOAs attempted to seize property rights through manipulated authority. The legal strategy Martinez proposed was comprehensive: primary claims, declaration of HOA ultra-vires actions. 2. Injunctive relief against property interference. 3. Monetary damages for harassment and interference. 4. Removal of current board members. 5. Invalidation of improper rule changes. Secondary claims: RICO violations, state law violations, breach of fiduciary duty. 4. Fraud and misrepresentation. 5. Abuse of process. Martinez emphasized the importance of proper timing. "We need to file before they can implement more of their plan, but after we've documented enough violations to establish a pattern," she advised, "and we need to be prepared for aggressive counteraction." The financial discussion was sobering. Quality legal representation isn't cheap, but Martinez proposed a unique solution. Given the number of affected homeowners, she suggested creating a legal defense fund. 30 homeowners contributing equally would make the costs manageable, and the potential recovery of legal fees under state HOA laws made it a calculated risk. Martinez's team began intensive case preparation: forensic analysis of HOA documents, property survey verification, financial audit of HOA records, documentation of all violations, expert witness identification. They also helped us structure our homeowner group properly. We formed a formal association, elected representatives, and established clear communication protocols. This organization would prove crucial in maintaining unity through the coming legal battle. The legal review process revealed additional strengths in our case: clear violations of state property laws, multiple breaches of HOA governing documents, documented pattern of selective enforcement, evidence of coordinated scheme, proof of financial impropriety. Martinez was particularly interested in the involvement of Premier Management. Their role in facilitating the scheme could potentially trigger their corporate liability insurance, providing a deeper pocket for damages than the HOA's limited insurance. The final strategic element was timing our legal action for maximum effect. Martinez advised waiting until after their next planned board meeting. where they were scheduled to vote on additional community integration measures. This would give us fresh evidence of their ongoing scheme, while preventing them from implementing new restrictions. As we concluded our consultation phase, Martinez left us with a powerful observation. This isn't just about stopping one HOA's overreach. This case could set precedent for protecting homeowner rights across the state. These development schemes are becoming more common, and someone needs to establish clear legal boundaries for HOA authority. Building our legal case required meticulous documentation of every violation, every incident, and every piece of evidence. Martinez's team created a secure online portal where affected homeowners could upload their evidence, ensuring everything was properly catalogued and time-stamped. The sheer volume of evidence was staggering, but patterns quickly emerged. Property documentation, original deeds and surveys, historical property markers, easement records, improvement approvals, maintenance records, property tax assessments, each document established our clear property rights and the boundaries Maxwell's team was trying to violate. Sarah's insider documents proved invaluable. Board meeting recordings, email exchanges between board members, draft versions of their community integration plans, financial projections for their development scheme, communications with Landmark, development, internal strategy memos. These materials revealed their step-by-step plan to seize property rights. The surveillance evidence was particularly damning. Security camera footage of unauthorized property inspections, dated photographs of moved property markers, videos of harassment by management representatives, audio recordings of threatening conversations, time-stamped photos of selective enforcement, documentation of interference with property use, financial records told their own story. Selective fee increases, unauthorized special assessments, misallocated funds, hidden development, expenses, manipulated reserve studies, improper fine structures. Martinez's forensic accountant identified over $275,000 in questionable transactions. We compiled a detailed timeline of harassment, every inspection attempt, each violation notice, all threatening communications, instances of service interference, attempts at property access, retaliatory actions. This chronology demonstrated their escalating pattern of abuse. Dr. Kim's technical analysis proved crucial. Survey discrepancies, zoning violation documentation, engineering assessments, safety code analyses, infrastructure impact studies. His expertise exposed fatal flaws in their development plans. The Patels' security system had captured revealing footage. Harrison measuring their property without permission. Workers moving property markers at night. Selective enforcement of parking rules. Unauthorized photography of their home. Intimidation attempts by security personnel. Each video strengthened our case. Elena Rodriguez's detailed records showed the pattern. Progressive escalation of violations, selective enforcement dates, communication attempts, board response delays, retaliatory actions. Her documentation demonstrated their systematic approach. Maria Santos from the county office provided crucial records, preliminary development filings, property line adjustment requests, permit pre-applications, zoning variance inquiries, historical property records. These documents exposed their long-term plans. We gathered evidence of their communication tactics, misleading community notices, manipulated meeting minutes, selective information distribution, false statements in official documents, deceptive legal notifications, intimidating correspondence. Each piece showed their pattern of deception. The Wilsons' audio recordings were particularly effective. Harrison threatening property lines, premier staff discussing targeting strategies, board members admitting to selective enforcement, conversations about moving property markers, discussions of their development scheme. These recordings captured their true intentions. We documented every procedural violation: improper notice of meetings, invalid voting procedures, unauthorized rule changes, illegal executive sessions, document access denials, appeals process violations. Each breach strengthened our legal position. Expert analysis revealed deeper issues: property value impact studies, legal precedent research, HOA authority limitations, development regulation conflicts, environmental compliance issues, safety code violations. These findings undermined their entire scheme. Martinez's team organized everything into clear categories: direct property rights violations, procedural breaches, financial misconduct, harassment and retaliation, document fraud. 6. Rule manipulation, selective enforcement, development. Scheme evidence. The evidence compilation created an overwhelming case: over 1,000 pages of documentation, 47 hours of audio, video recordings, 832 photographs, 1,237 emails and communications, 312 official documents, 89 witness statements, all methodically organized and cross-referenced. This comprehensive evidence package accomplished several goals: established clear patterns of abuse, documented systematic rights violations, proved coordinated action, demonstrated financial misconduct, showed intentional deception, revealed their development scheme. 7. Supported RICO claims, justified punitive damages. Most importantly, the evidence was unassailable. Every document was authenticated, every recording legally obtained, every statement corroborated. We had created an airtight case that would be nearly impossible to defend against. Filing the lawsuit was like setting off a legal nuclear bomb. Martinez's team timed it perfectly, the morning after a particularly aggressive board meeting where Maxwell's team had pushed through additional community integration measures. The 187-page complaint landed simultaneously on multiple desks: the board members, Premier Management, Stevenson and Associates, and even Landmark Development Group. The complaint was a masterpiece of legal writing, structured in devastating layers. Count 1. Ultra vires actions detailed every instance where the board exceeded its authority, cited specific violations of HOA governing documents, demonstrated systematic abuse of power, showed willful violation of state laws, documented unauthorized property interference. Count 2. RICO violations, established pattern of racketeering activity, documented mail and wire fraud, proved coordinated scheme, showed financial manipulation, demonstrated organized criminal enterprise. Count 3. Property rights violations, documented unauthorized property access, proved illegal boundary modifications, showed interference with property use, demonstrated attempted property theft, established pattern of rights violations. Count 4. Financial misconduct, detailed misuse of HOA funds, exposed unauthorized assessments, documented selective enforcement, proved financial manipulation, showed improper fee structures. Count 5. Harassment and retaliation, catalogued every incident of harassment, documented retaliatory actions, proved intentional interference, showed coordinated intimidation, established pattern of abuse. The relief sought was equally comprehensive. Immediate injunction against property interference, removal of current board members, invalidation of improper rules, substantial monetary damages, triple damages under RICO 6, punitive damages, attorney fees and costs, court supervision. Of new board elections, Martinez arranged for synchronized service of the complaint. At 9 a.m. sharp, process servers delivered copies to Maxwell's home, Premier's office, board members' residences, Stevenson and Associates, Landmark Development's headquarters. The timing was crucial. It coincided with Maxwell's regular Tuesday meeting with potential investors, ensuring maximum disruption to their plans. The process server reported that Maxwell's face turned ghost white when he read the first page. Within hours, the effects rippled through the community. Premier's office suddenly closed for system updates. Harrison's threatening inspections ceased immediately. The landscaping crews vanished. Even the security patrols disappeared. By noon, Stevenson and Associates was in crisis mode. Our complaint exposed their role in similar schemes across 3 states. Their managing partner personally called Martinez, attempting to discuss preliminary settlement options. She politely informed them that any settlement would require full board resignation and substantial damages. The media impact was significant. Martinez had prepared a press release highlighting the broader implications: HOA abuse of authority, property rights violations, development scheme exposure, homeowner protection precedent. Local news picked up the story, focusing on the David versus Goliath angle. The complaints supporting exhibits were devastating. Audio recordings of threats, video of property interference, documentary evidence of fraud, financial manipulation, proof internal scheme documents. Each exhibit was meticulously authenticated and cross-referenced. Martinez filed for emergency injunctive relief. Halt all property inspections, suspend violation enforcement, freeze new rule implementation, stop unauthorized access, prevent retaliatory actions. The hearing was scheduled for the following morning. Their initial response was telling. Instead of their usual aggressive stance, Stevenson and Associates filed a motion for additional time to respond. Their supporting declaration revealed their panic. Need to review extensive evidence require. Client consultation, must investigate allegations, need to assess exposure, want to explore resolution. Martinez opposed their delay request with surgical precision, cited ongoing violations, showed immediate harm, proved irreparable damage, demonstrated urgency, established pattern of delays. The judge granted our emergency hearing. This initial legal salvo accomplished several goals. Stopped immediate property interference, disrupted their development plans, exposed their scheme publicly, created internal conflicts, established legal leverage, generated media pressure. 7. Built community support, forced defensive posture. Most importantly, it shifted the power dynamic. They were no longer the aggressors. They were defendants scrambling to respond to devastating allegations backed by overwhelming evidence. The emergency injunction hearing revealed the first cracks in their facade. Maxwell arrived with not just Stevenson and Associates, but 3 additional law firms. Their over-lawyered presence screamed desperation, especially when contrasted with Martinez's confident solo appearance. The hearing room was packed with homeowners, creating an atmosphere that felt more like a community showdown than a legal proceeding. Judge Eleanor Thompson, known for her expertise in property law, set the tone immediately. When Stevenson tried to dismiss our claims as routine HOA matters, she interrupted with pointed questions about their property rights violations. Her familiarity with our complaint was evident. She'd clearly spent time reviewing the extensive documentation. The turning point came when Martinez played the audio recordings, Harrison threatening liens over refused property access. Maxwell discussing their development scheme. Board members planning selective enforcement. Premier staff admitting to targeted harassment. Conversations about moving property markers. Each recording stripped away their pretense of legitimate authority. The judge's reaction was telling. During the recording of Maxwell explaining their community integration plan to investors, she removed her glasses and stared directly at him. When his attorney tried to object to the recordings, she shut him down with a simple, "These appear to be your client's own words, counselor." Their defense strategy crumbled in real time. First hour, tried to claim proper authority, argued for management discretion, cited standard HOA powers, claimed emergency powers, attempted procedural delays. Second hour, shifted to damage control. offered partial concessions, tried to blame Premier, suggested miscommunication, proposed temporary compromise. Third hour, requested mediation, offered rule suspension, proposed board changes, suggested neutral management, pleaded for time judge. Thompson's ruling was comprehensive. Immediate halt to all property inspections. 2. Suspension of all recent rule changes. 3. Freeze on violation enforcement. 4. Ban on unauthorized property access. 5. Prohibition of retaliatory actions. 6. Requirement for open meetings. 7. Court oversight of board actions. 8. Weekly compliance reports. The aftermath was immediate. As we left the courthouse, we learned that Premier's corporate office had terminated Harrison's employment. Their press release distanced themselves from unauthorized actions of local management. By evening, they'd appointed an interim manager who immediately began reviewing all recent enforcement actions. Maxwell's carefully constructed power structure began unraveling. Patricia Winters resigned from the board. Thomas Green took medical leave. Their security patrols disappeared. Landscaping crews vanished. Violation notices ceased. Each departure weakened their remaining authority. The community reaction was electric. Neighbors openly celebrated. Property markers reappeared. Yard improvements resumed. Communication barriers fell. Information began flowing. The atmosphere of fear lifted overnight. Internal documents started leaking. Board members turned on each other. Premier staff shared violations. Contractors admitted pressure. Security personnel confessed. Support staff revealed details. Each revelation strengthened our case. Landmark. Development group tried damage control, denied direct involvement, claimed misunderstanding, offered to mediate, suggested compromise, proposed settlement. Their panic was palpable. Maxwell's investor group pulled out, cancelled funding, withdrew support, demanded explanations, threatened litigation, exposed additional schemes. Their development plans collapsed. The media coverage intensified. Local news investigated. Property rights groups contacted. Legal journals inquired. HOA forums exploded. Social media spread. Our case became a cause célèbre. Most significantly, other communities reached out. Similar schemes exposed. Pattern evidence emerged. Additional victims identified. Related cases connected. Broader conspiracy revealed. Our local victory was becoming a movement. Martinez leveraged every development, filed additional evidence, expanded RICO claims, added conspirators, increased damages, strengthened injunctions. Our position grew stronger daily. The HOA's insurance carrier delivered the final blow. Questioned coverage, investigated fraud, demanded explanations, threatened cancellation, considered separate action. Their financial protection crumbled. What started as a property rights case had exposed a systematic scheme of HOA abuse. Maxwell's empire wasn't just failing, it was providing evidence of similar operations across the state. Each new revelation strengthened our case and weakened their position, setting the stage for the final confrontation. The settlement negotiations began from a position of overwhelming strength. With the emergency injunction in place and their scheme exposed, Maxwell's team had lost all leverage. Their new lead counsel, replacing the discredited Stevenson and Associates, reached out to Martinez with an initial settlement proposal that revealed their desperation. Their first offer was insulting: withdraw selected rule changes, suspend some violations, modify inspection procedures, adjust enforcement policies, maintain current board. Martinez didn't even dignify it with a response. The second offer showed more reality: rescind all recent rule changes, cancel all pending violations, refund selected fines, modify board composition, update management procedures. Still nowhere near adequate. Our counter-demands were comprehensive. Complete board dissolution, all current members resign, ban on future service. court-supervised elections, independent oversight, governance reforms, financial restitution, refund all invalid fines, repay improper assessments, compensate for harassment, cover property damage, return illegal fees. 3. Property rights protection, void all invalid rules, restore original CC&Rs, remove false claims, reset property markers, cancel development plans. 4. Management changes, terminate premier contract, independent management search, new approval procedures, transparent operations, regular audits. Legal consequences, criminal referrals, bar complaints, licensing actions, regulatory reports, public disclosure. The negotiations revealed new details: insurance coverage disputes, personal liability exposure, criminal investigation risks, additional scheme evidence. Related case connections. Maxwell's personal attorney intervened, sought immunity deals, offered cooperation, proposed testimony, revealed conspirators, exposed other schemes. Their desperation grew daily. Asset freeze threats, criminal exposure, professional sanctions, insurance denial, investment losses. The HOA's insurance carrier complicated matters, coverage questions, fraud investigation, claim denials, policy cancellation, separate litigation, Premier's corporate office proposed separation, contract termination, management transition, evidence cooperation, damage payments, system reforms, landmark development faced crisis, investor withdrawal, project cancellations, partner departures, regulatory scrutiny, market collapse. Martinez leveraged every weakness, increased demands, added conditions, expanded scope, enhanced oversight, strengthened reforms. The community's role evolved: settlement input, reform proposals, oversight committees, governance, participation, future planning. Key demands emerged: immediate actions, board resignations, rule reversions, fine refunds, property restoration, document surrender, structural changes, governance reforms, management replacement, oversight systems, transparency requirements, term limits. Financial resolution, damage payments, legal fee coverage, assessment refunds, reserve restoration, audit requirements, future protection, property rights guarantees, development restrictions, approval requirements, member protections, appeal processes. The final breakthrough came when Maxwell's primary investor group threatened separate legal action against him. Facing financial ruin, criminal exposure, and professional destruction, he finally authorized his attorneys to accept our core demands. The settlement framework emerged: complete board replacement, full financial restitution, property rights restoration, management restructuring, legal consequences, future protections, community reforms. Each element required careful negotiation. Specific terms, implementation timing, oversight mechanisms, enforcement provisions, violation penalties. The process transformed our community: engaged membership, active participation, transparent governance, protected rights, restored trust. Victory was within reach, but we maintained pressure, continued documentation, media engagement, legal preparation, community unity, strategic planning. The end game approached, but we knew from experience not to celebrate prematurely. Everything had to be properly documented, legally binding, and enforceable. The final settlement agreement was a 276-page document that Martinez called a blueprint for HOA reform. Every clause was crafted to not only address past abuses, but prevent future ones. The signing ceremony, held in Judge Thompson's chambers, marked the end of Maxwell's reign and the beginning of a new era for our community. The core victory terms were comprehensive: immediate leadership changes, complete board dissolution, resignation of all officers, removal of committee chairs, management company termination, court-appointed interim board. Each removal was immediate and irrevocable. Property rights restoration, nullification of invalid rules, restoration of original CC&Rs, removal of false claims, return of property rights, boundary marker restoration. All property rights were explicitly protected. Financial restitution, twos. 8 million settlement fund. Full fine reimbursement, assessment refunds, damage compensation, legal fee coverage. The financial recovery exceeded expectations. Governance reforms, term limits established, open meeting requirements, transparent voting, procedures, document access guaranteed, member participation rights. Democracy replaced dictatorship. Management changes, professional management requirements, independent contractor selection, performance metrics established, regular audits required. Member oversight guaranteed, accountability became mandatory. Property protection, clear boundary, definitions, usage rights guaranteed, improvement processes simplified, access restrictions established, privacy protections added, individual rights were secured, legal safeguards, state law compliance required, due process guaranteed, appeal rights established, legal review requirements, member protection clauses, future abuse became harder. Operational reforms, transparent procedures, clear violation. Processes, fair enforcement requirements, regular communications, member service-focused professionalism replaced persecution. The settlement included specific prohibitions: no secret meetings, no selective enforcement, no unauthorized access, no retaliatory actions, no hidden fees, no rule manipulation, no property interference, no development schemes. Future protection measures were built in: regular legal reviews, independent audits, member oversight committees, professional management requirements, transparency mandates, communication requirements, appeal procedures, enforcement limits. The financial terms were substantial: direct compensation to affected owners, property restoration funding, legal fee reimbursement, reserve fund restoration, management transition costs, system upgrade funding, audit expense coverage, future protection reserves. Structural changes were permanent: revised bylaws, updated CC&Rs, new operating procedures, modified voting systems, reformed committees, enhanced oversight, clear boundaries, protected rights. Individual protections were strengthened: property rights guarantees, usage protections, improvement rights, privacy safeguards, access controls, appeal processes, enforcement limits, communication rights. Community engagement was mandated: regular meetings, open forums, committee participation, decision input, vote requirements, information access, feedback systems, member services. The settlement also included consequences: personal liability for violations, enforcement penalties, performance bonds, insurance requirements, audit mandates, review processes, compliance reporting. Oversight systems implementation was carefully structured: phased transitions, professional oversight, member involvement, progress monitoring, regular reviews, adjustment processes, success metrics, completion requirements. Perhaps most importantly, the settlement included poison pill provisions, automatic penalties for violations, required insurance coverage, personal liability triggers, enforcement mechanisms, review requirements, reporting mandates, member protections, legal remedies. The victory wasn't just about ending current abuses, it was about preventing future ones. Every term was crafted to ensure lasting change and protection for all homeowners. The transformation of Cypress Creek Estates was immediate and dramatic. Within weeks of the settlement's implementation, the atmosphere of fear and suspicion gave way to a renewed sense of community. The changes weren't just on paper, they were visible throughout our neighborhood. The physical changes came first, property markers restored to correct positions, unauthorized access markers removed, surveillance equipment dismantled, threatening, signage taken down. Community spaces reopened, the visual symbols of oppression disappeared. Our new management company, Integrity Community Services, brought a completely different approach. Professional, respectful communication, clear, transparent procedures, prompt response to inquiries, fair, consistent enforcement, member-focused service. The contrast with Premier was striking. The interim board, appointed by the court, consisted of Dr. James Chen, retired corporate governance expert, Maria Hernandez, former city planner, Robert Williams, property law professor, Susan O'Connor, HOA reform advocate, David Park, community, mediation specialist. Their expertise guided our transition. Our first open community meeting set the new tone. Full financial transparency, clear agenda and procedures, respectful discussion, member participation, recorded minutes. Over 200 homeowners attended. Property improvements flourished, gardens restored and expanded. Home maintenance resumed. Landscaping projects started. Exterior updates begun. Improvements approved quickly. Freedom replaced fear. The financial recovery exceeded expectations. Settlement funds distributed. Fines refunded with interest. Assessments adjusted fairly. Reserve fund restored. Operating costs reduced. Homeowners received substantial reimbursements. Communication transformed. Weekly email updates, online document access, open forum discussions, regular newsletters, transparent decisions. Information flowed freely. Property rights were firmly established. Clear boundary documentation, usage rights confirmed, improvement processes simplified, access controls established, privacy protected. Individual rights became sacred. The new violation process demonstrated fairness, clear written notices, specific rule citations, reasonable cure periods, fair appeal process, consistent enforcement. Justice replaced harassment. Community engagement soared. Committee participation increased. Volunteer programs started. Social events resumed. Neighbor cooperation grew. Community pride returned. Unity replaced division. Professional services improved. Responsive maintenance. Quality contractors. Fair bidding processes. Regular inspections. Member satisfaction surveys. Service replaced control. Property values reflected the change. Market values increased. Sale prices improved. Buyer interest grew. Realtor recommendations. Positive community reputation. Our investment was protected. The new architectural review process worked smoothly. Clear guidelines, quick responses, helpful suggestions, consistent standards. Professional review improvement became easier. Security shifted focus. Community safety emphasis, resident-friendly patrols, emergency preparedness, neighborhood watch. Positive presence protection replaced intimidation. Administrative systems modernized. Online payment options. Digital document. Access. Automated notifications. User-friendly website. Mobile app access convenience replaced obstruction. Community spaces thrived. Enhanced maintenance. Increased usage. New amenities. Family activities. Social gatherings. Fellowship replaced fear. The legal framework ensured stability, clear governing documents, professional oversight, regular reviews, member protections, enforcement limits. Rights became guaranteed. Perhaps most telling was the change in daily life. Neighbors talked freely, children played outside, gardens flourished, home improvements progressed. Community spirit grew, normal life resumed. The transformation wasn't just administrative, it was cultural. Our community had learned valuable lessons about protecting rights and standing together. The victory wasn't just about ending abuse, it was about creating a model for how HOAs should operate. Our victory over Maxwell's property rights grab generated intense interest from other communities facing similar challenges. Homeowners, attorneys, and HOA reform advocates reached out for guidance. Through these conversations, we distilled crucial lessons about fighting HOA overreach and protecting property rights. The legal framework. Understanding property rights was fundamental. HOA authority limits, state law protections, property right basics, enforcement boundaries, legal remedies, knowledge trumped intimidation. Documentation proved crucial. Chronological. Records, written communications, photo-video evidence, financial tracking, witness statements, every detail mattered. Understanding HOA operations was essential. Governing documents, state regulations, operating procedures, financial systems, management structure, knowledge-enabled action, legal strategy insights. Choosing the right attorney was critical. HOA, law expertise, property rights experience, litigation track record, strategic thinking, communication skills expertise determined outcomes. Building the case required method, systematic documentation, evidence preservation, witness coordination, expert consultation, strategic timing, preparation enabled victory. Financial considerations were important, legal cost planning. Evidence, gathering expenses, expert witness fees, documentation costs, settlement negotiations resources, affected options. Community organization lessons. Unity proved powerful, coordinated resistance, shared resources, combined evidence, united voice, mutual support. Together we prevailed. Communication was vital, regular updates, clear information, consistent messaging, open discussion, feedback channels, knowledge-empowered action. Security measures mattered. Evidence protection, communication security, document safeguarding, witness protection, information control safety enabled resistance. Strategic insights, timing proved crucial. Evidence gathering, legal preparation, action coordination, media engagement, settlement negotiation, patience enabled success. Understanding opposition tactics helped, intimidation methods, financial pressure, social manipulation, legal threats, psychological warfare, knowledge prevented fear. Media management was important, strategic publicity, message control, public support, pressure creation, narrative management coverage aided victory. Practical lessons, property documentation was essential. Boundary records, improvement history, maintenance logs, usage patterns, rights documentation, records, protected rights. Financial tracking proved valuable. Fee history, fine records, assessment. Tracking, expense documentation, value impact numbers told truth. Professional relationships mattered. Legal counsel, property experts, financial advisors, media contacts, government relations, networks enabled action. Long-term protection, reform implementation required vigilance, regular monitoring, procedure. Enforcement, rights protection. Communication maintenance, community engagement victory required maintenance. Future protection needed structure, clear procedures, strong governance, member involvement, professional management. Regular review prevention beat cure. Leadership lessons emerged. Transparent operation. Member focus. Professional standards. Clear communication. Fair enforcement service beat control. The most valuable lesson was empowerment. Rights awareness. Legal knowledge. Community strength. Strategic thinking. United action knowledge enabled change. These lessons weren't just about winning. They were about preventing future abuse. By sharing our experience, we hope to help other communities protect their rights and create better HOA governance. While our victory over Maxwell's property rights scheme was complete, the battle revealed serious risks and challenges that anyone facing similar situations should understand. Fighting HOA abuse requires careful consideration of numerous factors before taking action. Legal risks. The cost of litigation is substantial. Attorney fees, $50,000, $200,000 plus. Expert witness costs, evidence-gathering expenses, documentation. Requirements. Court filing fees. Financial preparation is crucial. Time commitment is intense. Document preparation, evidence gathering, meeting attendance, legal consultations, court appearances. Life gets disrupted, emotional toll is significant, constant stress, sleep disruption, family impact, work interference, health effects, personal cost is high. Practical challenges. Opposition resources are substantial. HOA legal budget, insurance coverage, professional management, expert witnesses, corporate backing, they fight with your money. Retaliation risk is real. Property targeting, service interference, social isolation, business impact, personal harassment protection needs planning. Community division occurs. Neighbor conflicts, social pressure, information manipulation, support erosion. Relationship damage. Unity requires effort. Strategic concerns, timing affects outcomes. Evidence gathering period, legal preparation time. Action coordination, resource allocation, settlement negotiations. Patience is crucial. Professional help is expensive. Legal representation, expert consultation, professional documentation, financial analysis, property assessment quality costs money. Opposition tactics are sophisticated. Legal manipulation, financial pressure, social engineering, information control, psychological warfare. Preparation is essential. Personal considerations, family impact is significant. Time demands, financial. Stress, emotional strain, social pressure, daily disruption support is crucial. Professional risk exists. Business interference, career impact, client concerns, reference checks, reputation attacks, protection needed, property value effects occur, short-term impact, sale difficulties, buyer concerns, market perception, value fluctuation, financial planning required. Practical warnings. Documentation demands are intense. Detailed records, organized files, secure storage, regular updates, cross-referencing system needed. Security concerns arise, personal safety, property protection, information security, communication. Privacy, evidence preservation protection required. Resource demands increase. Time commitment, financial resources, emotional energy, support networks, professional help planning. Essential success requirements, legal expertise is crucial. Specialized knowledge, litigation experience. Strategic thinking, resource access, professional network quality matters. Community support helps. United action, shared resources, combined evidence, mutual support, coordinated response strength in numbers, financial stability needed, legal fund, living expenses, emergency reserves, income protection, asset security resources matter. Victory costs, implementation demands attention, reform oversight, system changes, procedure updates, member education, ongoing monitoring, follow-through crucial. Recovery takes time, community healing, relationship repair, system restoration, trust rebuilding, normal resumption patience needed. These warnings aren't meant to discourage action, they're meant to ensure proper preparation. Fighting HOA abuse requires careful planning, adequate resources, and full understanding of the challenges ahead. Looking back at our successful fight against Maxwell's property rights scheme, several practical lessons emerge that could help others facing similar situations. These aren't just theoretical insights, they're battle-tested strategies that proved crucial to our victory. Essential preparation steps: document everything. Create detailed chronological logs. Save all communications. Photograph everything. Record conversations legally. Keep duplicate records. Evidence wins cases. Secure your property. Install security cameras. Document boundary markers. Photograph existing conditions. Record improvement history. Maintain access logs. Protection prevents problems. Organize your records. Create filing systems. Digitize documents. Back up everything. Establish timelines. Cross-reference materials. Organization enables action. Legal foundation building. Know your rights. Study HOA documents. Research state laws. Understand property rights. Learn legal procedures. Review precedents. Knowledge is power. Build your case. Gather evidence systematically. Document violations. Collect witness statements. Secure expert opinions. Preserve proof properly. Preparation enables victory. Choose representatives carefully. Verify HOA experience. Check success records. Confirm resources. Evaluate strategy. Assess communication quality. Determines outcomes. Strategic action points. Time. Your response. Build evidence first. Secure resources. Coordinate support. Plan strategy. Choose timing. Patience enables success. Manage communication. Control information flow. Document exchanges. Maintain professionalism. Keep records. Stay strategic. Words matter. Build support. Connect with neighbors. Share information. Coordinate responses. Pool resources. Maintain unity. Strength in numbers. Financial management. Budget. Realistically, estimate legal costs, plan for experts, include documentation expenses, consider time costs, build contingency funds. Resources, determine options, protect assets, secure documents, protect property, maintain. Insurance, document value, track expenses. Protection prevents loss. Manage resources, allocate efficiently, track spending, share costs, monitor budgets, maintain reserves. Efficiency enables endurance. Community engagement, build alliances, connect with neighbors, share information, coordinate actions, support others, maintain unity. Together we succeed. Manage information, control narrative, share strategically, document distribution, maintain security, support clarity. Knowledge empowers action. Sustain momentum. Regular updates. Consistent action. Progress tracking. Victory sharing. Support. Maintenance. Persistence enables victory. Professional relationships. Legal team management. Clear communication. Regular updates. Document sharing. Strategy alignment. Cost monitoring. Partnership enables success. Expert coordination. Clear scope. Regular communication. Document sharing. Result tracking. Cost management. Expertise enables victory. Media relations. Strategic timing. Clear messaging. Fact verification. Response management. Narrative control. Coverage. Effects. Outcomes. Implementation. Success. Reform. Implementation. Clear procedures. Regular monitoring. Member engagement. Progress. Tracking. Success measurement. Follow-through ensures success. Maintain changes. Regular review. Member involvement. System updates. Communication maintenance. Progress monitoring. Vigilance prevents regression. These practical lessons emerged from real experience, tested in actual conflict, and proven through successful implementation. They represent not just what worked, but what proved essential to victory. 1 year after our victory over Maxwell's property rights scheme, Cypress Creek Estates has become a model for HOA reform. Our story has inspired other communities to stand up against HOA overreach. But more importantly, it's shown how homeowners can work together to protect their rights and create positive change. The lasting impact. Community transformation, restored property rights, strengthened neighbor bonds, improved governance, enhanced property values, renewed community spirit. Victory created lasting change. Property rights protection, clear boundaries established, usage rights secured, improvement freedom restored, privacy protected, access controlled. Rights remain sacred. Governance evolution, professional management, transparent operations, member engagement, fair enforcement, regular communication service replaced control. The broader effect, legal precedent, property rights strengthened, HOA limits established. Due process affirmed, member rights protected, abuse deterred, change reached beyond us. Reform movement, other communities inspired, rights awareness increased, legal strategies shared, protection methods developed, support networks formed, impact spread widely. Industry changes, management practices improved, legal standards strengthened, member rights emphasized, governance reformed, transparency increased, influence grew broader. Personal growth, leadership development, community organization, strategic thinking, legal knowledge, communication skills, problem-solving abilities, experience taught lessons, professional impact, property rights expertise, legal system understanding, management knowledge, community leadership, strategic planning. Knowledge grew valuable. Personal satisfaction, rights protected, community improved, justice achieved, change created, legacy established. Victory meant more. Ongoing benefits, property enhancement, values increased, improvements flourished, maintenance improved, beauty restored, pride returned, investment protected, community spirit, neighbor connections, shared activities, united purpose, common goals, mutual support fellowship restored, professional operation, efficient management, fair enforcement, clear communication, member service, regular improvement, excellence achieved. Future protection, governance, safeguards, term limits, open meetings, transparent operations, member rights, professional management. Prevention beats cure. Legal framework, clear authority, defined limits, protected rights, fair procedures, appeal processes. Structure ensures fairness. Member engagement, active participation, regular communication, decision input, problem solving. Continuous improvement, involvement ensures success. Lasting legacy, knowledge sharing, experience documented, lessons shared, methods taught, support provided. Change-enabled learning continues spreading. Reform movement, rights awareness, legal knowledge, protection methods, support networks, change creation movement keeps growing. Future vision, rights protection, community improvement, member service, professional operation, continuous evolution, progress continues forward. The victory over Maxwell's scheme wasn't just about stopping one abuse of power, it was about creating lasting change. Our community learned that homeowners have the power to protect their rights and improve their communities when they stand together. This story isn't just about what we won, it's about what we created. A blueprint for HOA reform that continues to inspire and guide others. The lesson is clear: property rights matter, community matters, and together, homeowners can create positive change that lasts for generations. Our victory wasn't just for us. It was for every homeowner who faces similar challenges. By sharing our story and the lessons we learned, we hope to empower others to stand up for their rights and create the communities they deserve. 2 years have passed since our victory over Maxwell's property rights scheme, and the transformation of Cypress Creek Estates has exceeded all expectations. What began as a fight to protect our property rights has evolved into a movement that's reshaping HOA governance across the state. Our story has become a beacon of hope for other communities, but more importantly, it's proven that homeowners can successfully stand up against organized attempts to strip away their rights. The immediate impact: Community transformation, the physical. Changes were immediate and striking. Property boundaries restored and permanently marked, unauthorized access points removed, surveillance equipment dismantled, community spaces revitalized, individual properties flourishing, gardens and landscaping thriving, home improvements accelerating, property values increasing steadily. The atmosphere of fear gave way to one of pride and cooperation. Governance revolution. Our new system became a model of efficiency and fairness, professional management with clear accountability, transparent financial operations, regular member communications, fair and consistent enforcement, open decision-making, processes, active member participation, regular performance reviews, continuous improvement focus, service and support replaced control and intimidation. Financial recovery. The monetary impact was substantial. Settlement funds distributed to affected homeowners, legal fees fully recovered, property values increased 15% above market average, operating costs reduced by 23%, reserve fund fully restored, assessment rates stabilized, improvement costs decreased, insurance rates reduced, proper management proved more cost-effective than control. The broader impact, legal precedent. Our case established crucial legal principles, clear limits on HOA authority, strong property rights protections, due process requirements, transparency mandates, member rights guarantees, professional standards, enforcement limitations, appeal rights. These precedents now protect homeowners statewide. Industry reform. The impact on HOA management was revolutionary. New professional standards established, management company practices reformed, board training requirements implemented, member rights emphasized, transparency mandates adopted, enforcement procedures standardized, communication requirements established, regular audits required. Our victory catalyzed industry-wide change. Reform movement. Our success inspired widespread change. Dozens of communities adopted our reforms. Property rights awareness increased. Legal defense networks formed. Support groups established. Educational resources developed. Professional standards elevated. Member engagement increased. Protection strategies shared. The movement continues growing exponentially. Lasting changes. Property rights protection, individual rights became sacrosanct, clear boundary definitions, usage rights guaranteed, improvement, freedom protected, privacy safeguarded, access controlled, member authority respected, personal space protected, individual choices honored, rights now balance with responsibilities. Community engagement, member participation transformed, regular town halls, active committees, open forums, continuous feedback, decision input, problem-solving participation, community planning, shared governance engagement replaced apathy. Professional operations, management excellence became standard. Clear procedures, consistent enforcement, regular communication, member service focus, performance metrics, quality standards, continuous improvement, regular reviews, professionalism replaced politics. Personal growth, leadership development. The experience built crucial skills, strategic thinking, legal knowledge, community organization, problem-solving abilities, communication expertise, conflict resolution, change management, team building. Victory created leaders. Professional impact, career benefits emerged, property rights expertise, legal system understanding, management knowledge, community leadership, strategic planning, organizational skills, problem-solving reputation, professional network experience brought opportunity. Personal satisfaction. The victory meant more than rights, community improvement, justice achievement, positive change, lasting impact, legacy creation, personal growth, relationship building, life lessons, success, transcended property, future protection, governance. Safeguards, prevention became paramount, term limits established, open meetings required, transparent operations mandated, member rights protected, professional management required, regular audits scheduled, performance reviews mandatory, continuous. Improvement expected, structure prevents abuse. Legal framework, rights protection became systematic. Clear authority definitions, operational limits, protected rights, fair procedures, appeal processes, enforcement standards, member protections, review requirements, systems ensure fairness. Member engagement, participation became crucial. Active involvement, regular communication, decision input, problem solving, continuous improvement, community planning, shared governance, collective responsibility involvement ensures success. The legacy knowledge. Sharing experience builds protection, lessons documented, methods shared, support provided, networks built, resources developed, training created, guidance offered, success replicated, learning spreads change. Reform, movement, change, creates momentum, rights awareness grows, legal knowledge spreads, protection methods develop, support networks expand, change accelerates, impact multiplies, movement strengthens, progress continues, victory inspires action. Future vision, progress shapes tomorrow, rights protection expands, communities improve, member service grows, professional operation evolves, standards elevate, systems improve, protection strengthens, success multiplies, the victory over Maxwell's scheme wasn't just about stopping one abuse of power. It created a blueprint for community governance that continues inspiring change across the country. Our experience proved that homeowners have the power to protect their rights and improve their communities when they stand together with purpose and preparation. This story transcends property rights. It's about community empowerment, justice, and the ability of ordinary people to create extraordinary change. The lessons we learned and the systems we created continue helping others fight similar battles and build better communities. The true measure of our success isn't just in the property rights we protected or the money we recovered, it's in the lasting change we created and the ongoing impact our victory continues to have. Every community that adopts our reforms, every homeowner who successfully fights for their rights, and every HOA that transforms into a true community service organization adds to our legacy. Our experience shows that positive change is possible when people stand together for what's right. Property rights matter, community matters, and together homeowners can create the positive changes that protect both. By sharing our story and the lessons we learned, we hope to empower others to stand up for their rights and create the communities they deserve. The fight for property rights and fair community governance continues, but now others have a roadmap to victory and the knowledge that success is possible. Our story isn't just about what we won, it's about what we started, a movement for HOA reform that continues growing and improving communities across the nation. Where are they now? The aftermath and future. Impact 5 years after our landmark victory at Cypress Creek Estates, the ripple effects continue spreading across the country. This update reveals the lasting impact on key players and the broader implications for HOA governance nationwide. The opposition's fate. Richard Maxwell. The aftermath hit our former antagonist hard, resigned from all HOA positions statewide, lost development company investors, faced multiple civil lawsuits, professional reputation damaged, real estate license suspended, development projects cancelled, financial empire crumbled, forced to relocate out of state. His scheme's exposure triggered a cascade of consequences. Premier management. The company faced serious repercussions, lost dozens of HOA contracts, underwent complete restructuring, replaced entire leadership team, implemented strict oversight, adopted ethical guidelines, required staff retraining, enhanced compliance systems, faced regulatory scrutiny. Their involvement cost them dearly. Stevenson and Associates, the law firm, suffered significant fallout. Multiple partners departed, client base eroded, bar complaints filed, professional sanctions imposed, insurance costs skyrocketed, practice areas restricted, reputation damaged. Revenue declined dramatically. Legal ethics violations carried heavy costs. Industry-wide changes, management company, reform. The industry underwent transformation, new certification requirements, strict ethical standards, enhanced transparency rules, regular auditing mandates, member service focus, professional training. Requirements, performance metrics established, accountability systems implemented, standards rose significantly. Legal practice, evolution, HOA law changed substantially, property rights emphasis, member protection focus, transparency requirements, due process mandates, enforcement limitations, appeal rights strengthened, documentation requirements, ethical guidelines enhanced, practice standards improved dramatically. Real estate impact, the market reflected changes. HOA governance scrutiny increased, property rights awareness grew, value assessments changed, buyer priorities shifted, developer practices evolved, community standards elevated, management expectations rose, rights protection valued, property rights gained prominence. Regulatory changes, state law reform, legislative changes followed. HOA authority limited, property rights strengthened, transparency mandated, member protections enhanced, professional standards established, enforcement restricted, appeal rights guaranteed, oversight increased, legal framework improved. Enforcement evolution, regulatory oversight increased. New monitoring systems, regular audits required, complaint processes streamlined, investigation procedures enhanced, penalty structures revised, compliance monitoring improved. Reporting requirements expanded, accountability increased, supervision became meaningful. Professional standards, industry requirements tightened, certification mandatory, training enhanced, ethics emphasized, performance monitored, service standards elevated, accountability increased, documentation required, review processes implemented, quality became paramount. Community impact, Cypress Creek, evolution. Our community thrived, property values increased 35%. Improvement projects flourished. Community engagement soared, member satisfaction peaked, services improved dramatically, costs remained stable. Reserves grew substantially, reputation enhanced significantly, success bred more success. Member empowerment, homeowner awareness grew, rights understanding increased, participation expanded, decision-making improved, communication enhanced, problem-solving evolved, community pride grew, engagement deepened, satisfaction increased, knowledge created power. Operational excellence, management quality soared, professional service delivered, member needs prioritized, communication improved, problems solved efficiently, resources managed effectively, quality maintained consistently, performance monitored regularly, improvements implemented continuously, excellence became standard. National impact, reform movement. Growth, our victory inspired change. Hundreds of communities reformed, thousands of members educated, multiple lawsuits succeeded, industry practices changed, standards elevated nationwide, protection methods spread, support networks grew, resources expanded, impact multiplied exponentially, knowledge sharing, information spread effectively. Training programs developed, resources created, networks established, support systems built, experience shared, methods taught, success replicated, impact expanded learning, accelerated change. Future development, progress continues advancing, new protections emerging, standards rising, systems improving, rights strengthening, services enhancing, quality increasing, value growing. Success spreading, evolution continues upward. Personal. Updates, key players, progress. Our team members evolved. Leadership roles assumed, expertise shared, consulting provided, training delivered, support offered, networks built, impact expanded, success continued, experience created opportunity. Community leaders. Local impact grew, governance improved, services enhanced, member satisfaction increased, property values rose, community strengthened, reputation elevated, success sustained, progress continued, leadership created excellence. Support network, assistance expanded, resources developed, training provided, support offered, networks built, knowledge shared, success replicated, impact multiplied, progress sustained, help became accessible. Ongoing evolution. Systems development, operations improved continuously, procedures enhanced, technology upgraded, communication improved, service elevated, quality increased, efficiency gained, value added. Excellence sustained, progress never stopped. Member services, support expanded constantly, resources increased, assistance improved, communication enhanced. Response time reduced, quality elevated, satisfaction grew, value delivered, excellence maintained, service became priority. Future focus, vision, expanded, rights protection growing, service improving, quality increasing, value rising, success spreading, impact expanding, progress continuing, excellence sustaining, evolution never ends. This 5-year perspective reveals how one community's victory against property rights abuse created lasting change across the nation. The impact continues growing as more communities learn from our experience and implement similar reforms. Our story proves that determined homeowners can not only protect their rights, but also create positive change that benefits generations to come. The transformation of HOA governance continues evolving, built on the foundation of our success. Each new community that adopts these reforms, each homeowner who successfully defends their rights, and each HOA that embraces professional service adds to this legacy of positive change. Most importantly, our experience shows that ordinary people can create extraordinary change when they stand together for what's right. Property rights protection, community service, and professional management aren't just ideals. They're achievable realities that continue improving communities nationwide. 10 years after our initial victory at Cypress Creek Estates, the transformation of HOA governance has exceeded all expectations. What began as a single community's fight against property rights abuse has evolved into a nationwide movement for reform. This decade of change offers profound insights into the future of community governance and property rights protection. National reform movement, educational impact. The knowledge base has expanded dramatically. University-level HOA management programs. Professional certification requirements, continuing education mandates, online training platforms, resource libraries developed, case study collections, best practice guides, research initiatives, educational standards continue rising. Legal evolution. The legal landscape has transformed, multiple state laws reformed, federal oversight increased, court precedents established, rights protection strengthened, enforcement mechanisms improved, appeal processes streamlined, documentation, requirements enhanced, professional standards elevated, legal protection deepened significantly. Industry transformation, management practices evolved substantially, professional standards mandated, technology integration required, member service emphasized, communication enhanced, transparency increased, accountability strengthened, performance. Metrics established, quality measures implemented, excellence became standard. Technological advancement, digital integration. Technology revolutionized operations, blockchain property records, AI-powered management systems, real-time communication platforms, digital voting systems, automated compliance monitoring, smart contract implementation, virtual meeting capabilities, digital document management innovation, enhanced efficiency, security enhancement, protection systems evolved. Cybersecurity protocols, data protection measures, privacy safeguards, access controls, information security, document protection, communication encryption, system integrity, security became paramount. Service enhancement, member support improved, mobile service platforms, 24/7 assistance availability, real-time problem resolution, digital resource access, interactive communication, automated service tracking, performance monitoring, satisfaction measurement, service quality soared. Community development, social evolution, community engagement transformed, active participation increased, leadership development expanded, member involvement grew, communication improved, problem-solving enhanced, decision-making evolved, collaboration strengthened, unity increased, engagement became standard. Property enhancement, value creation accelerated, property values increased, improvement quality rose, maintenance standards elevated, community aesthetics enhanced, infrastructure improved, amenities expanded, services enhanced, satisfaction grew, investment protection strengthened. Cultural transformation, community spirit evolved, mutual respect increased, cooperation grew, understanding deepened, support expanded, unity strengthened, pride developed, satisfaction rose, harmony prevailed, culture improved dramatically. Professional development management, evolution, professional standards elevated, certification requirements increased, training programs expanded, performance standards raised, service quality improved, accountability strengthened, ethics emphasized, excellence rewarded, innovation encouraged, professionalism deepened, leadership development, community leadership evolved. Training programs expanded, skills development increased, knowledge sharing grew, support networks strengthened, resources expanded, mentoring developed, success replicated, excellence promoted, leadership quality improved, service enhancement, member support transformed, response times decreased, solution quality improved, communication enhanced, satisfaction increased, problems prevented, service expanded, value delivered, excellence maintained, service became priority. Future directions, innovation, focus, development continues. Technology integration, expanding, service quality improving, efficiency increasing, communication enhancing, protection strengthening, value growing, excellence spreading, progress continuing, evolution never stops. Rights protection, safeguards strengthen, legal protection expanding, enforcement improving, documentation enhancing, prevention strengthening, response accelerating, resolution improving, justice ensuring, rights securing, protection grows stronger, community enhancement, value creation continues, property values rising, services improving, quality increasing, satisfaction growing, experience enhancing, benefits expanding, success spreading, excellence maintaining, progress accelerates forward. Global impact, international influence, reform spreads globally, models adopted internationally, standards shared worldwide, practices replicated globally, Success stories spreading, networks expanding, knowledge sharing, impact growing. Change accelerating, influence expands worldwide. Cross-cultural learning, knowledge exchange grows, best practices shared, experiences exchanged, solutions adapted, methods improved, understanding deepened, cooperation increased, success replicated, progress accelerated, learning enhances development. Future vision, progress continues, rights protection expanding, service quality improving, technology advancing, communities developing, value growing, excellence spreading, success continuing, evolution progressing, development never ends. Sustainable development, environmental focus, sustainability grows, green initiatives expanding, energy efficiency increasing, resource conservation growing, environmental protection strengthening, sustainable practices developing, climate response improving, nature preserving, future protecting responsibility increases. Economic stability, financial strength builds, value protection growing, resource management improving, cost efficiency increasing, investment returns rising, stability strengthening, security growing, success continuing, progress maintaining, strength develops continuously. Social responsibility, community care expands, member support growing, service quality improving, assistance expanding, protection increasing, care developing, support strengthening, help growing. Progress continuing, responsibility deepens. This decade of transformation reveals how organized reform can create lasting positive change. The movement that began with one community's fight for property rights has evolved into a comprehensive revolution in community governance. Each year brings new improvements, innovations, and opportunities for progress. The future of HOA governance continues evolving, built on foundations of rights protection, professional service, and community enhancement. Technology integration, member empowerment, and service excellence drive continuous improvement in community living standards nationwide. Most importantly, this evolution demonstrates how determined action can create positive change that benefits generations to come. The principles of property rights protection, professional management, and community service continue guiding development of better communities across the globe. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.